Okay, first of all, New Hampshire has a kickoff dog instead of a kickoff kid.
Okay, hell yeah. We love that.
So just want to put that one out there.
I would sign up for kickoff dog.
Because you got that dog in you.
I can if I need to. I
Just you in a dog costume running out onto the field on all fours.
That's a really big dog. No, that's just a human man wearing a dog suit.
Just like the Wilfred costume.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's get started here. Welcome to Opa Podcast, episode 76. Today we're joined just by the three of us today. Soup, say hi.
And, go Bears, I guess.
Wyatt.
I am in Spain without the S. Oh.
Along with myself, Jason O, your producer and host. Griffin is working tonight, so he will be providing some notes for us for this episode. But to give an overview for today's episode, we will be recapping the Wisconsin game, the final game of the season last week, along with some of the craziness that has ensued in the last few days, and today in particular. So to get started, the Gophers lost 28-14 last weekend against the Wisconsin Badgers, snapping the 2-game win streak that we had and giving them back the axe. So now Wisconsin leads the overall series 63-62, and I forgot the number of where we're tied.
60, I think it's 8.
8? Okay.
I was also going to say 8, so.
Okay, perfect. But to start off, Soup, myself, and Griffin were at the game last weekend. I know Soup for sure had a great tailgate. I was a bit late, so I couldn't get to that, but glad to see the two of you guys at the game after a long while.
Yeah, it was super nice to see you. Griff made it to the tailgate for a little bit. That was fun. We had the industrial heater out, so it's a good time. And I don't know, win or lose, at least that part was fun, I guess. The tailgate group was great this year. It was just a blast, and that's that's the beauty of college football. It's so much fun, and very little of the time is it about the game.
Oh, for sure. And I noted it last episode, but I went with my siblings who are both Badger fans. One's an alum.
Boo, boo.
Obviously, yeah, and one's undergrad. But the one thing that I will say, even though we do have that sibling rivalry, they do have some agreements with me. Like, okay, there's some things the Gophers are actually decent at, but also bad. And then we can say the same
I'd
thing
love
about the
to hear
Badgers.
these.
Yeah, like
I would love to hear these.
I will mention one thing. My brother, for some reason, does not like Braylon Allen, Wisconsin's running back.
Okay, well,
But
The
that's a weird one.
weirdest choice you could make, yeah.
well, there was one play. You know how to
He
get
did
into the
declare for
game.
the NFL draft today, and he will be a top 100 pick. So
True, but when Braylon Allen broke off for that run towards the end zone and then got stopped on like the 5 yard line or something.
yeah, which time?
Um, I think for the to take the
Yeah, I'm
to
being
take the lead
sarcastic.
21-14. Yeah, I think that was that one. I don't remember.
Yeah.
He was like, because he's a big Jonathan Taylor fan, I will note. So he was like complaining like if JT was here, he would have broke that tackle and gone into the end zone no matter what. And
I
was like,
mean, maybe,
I was like, okay, I can see that. I get
but
your
now
point.
now we're comparing Braylon Allen to you know Jonathan Taylor. I don't really know if that's fair.
Yeah, but then again, it's interesting. But I think this,
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
yeah, it's a fun conversation. Like it's like no, it's not hard jab. There's just fun jabs at it though too. I do want to know, even though it sounded serious when how I how I shared the story, but it was a fun game. Glad to be with my siblings because we don't really live together anymore. Again, my brother's in Milwaukee for med school, and my sister's out at undergrad and may continue further outside of the Midwest for school and work. So, just to go together and have a good time was very, very fun. Um, but aside from the funsies, and I think why we gotta mention you. You were out of town with family and friends, right?
I had, as a matter of fact, just gotten back from Utah that morning. We flew in on a red eye. I got a late invite to the game, uh, but I was sleeping when I got the invite, so I didn't even see it till 2 o'clock.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
No, it's not.
Man,
Listen,
why you missed
I
the opportunity for all four boys to be there because Laurence has been
we'll
busy.
make it happen next season sometime.
It'll happen.
We'll get there. But yeah, to touch on the game, the positives coming out of the game, like highlights first. Tyler Newbin recorded an interception this game, which now makes him, to correct me guys, the all-time leader in school history. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Correct.
Which is great. And then as part of the postseason
Jim Thorpe Award. I just want to talk.
yeah,
again.
looking at you, Jim Thorpe Award people, like
Where
hell?
where the Jim Thorpe Award at?
They must have voted for it on like TikTok or something.
probably. But to also mention a bit further, for the postseason, like post regular season, Tyler Newman makes first team All Big Ten as a defensive back, and then our very own our kicker Dragan Kesic also made first team special teams as well.
My personal hero.
Our hero, yes. And then
And Dragan, also Big Ten Kicker of the Year.
I almost forgot about that. Thanks for mentioning Soup.
Yeah.
So some love for that. And then I will say the first touchdown drive of the game for the Gophers, and then that's where my positives end.
Boy.
Are we not going to talk about the honorable mentions for the All Big Ten team?
We should.
We should. Let me pull that up quick.
Because there's at least one fairly major surprise on that list.
All right, honorable mentions.
I'm trying to
Kyler
think
Ball,
who could
Jaw Joyner, Danny Strigo, Justin Wally, and lastly, Mark Crawford.
I mean, I
Mark
think he was.
Crawford.
I think that's a. I mean, I think he had a good year, like objectively.
Like, yeah, I've been saying it all year. Do we have a new Mark Crawford?
I mean, I don't know how much eligibility he has left. He's like 35, right?
Yeah, no, I can't imagine he's playing anymore after this season.
Yeah.
But like, all of a sudden he turned it on a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about just the special teams philosophy in general. I think really helps him because they don't. He's really not forced into positions where he like has to flip the field that often.
He's
so
not like
not really-
Iowa's. Like he's not like the Iowa punters who like always flip the
yeah.
field.
Who's like one of his best friends,
Very true. I
which
think
is
another
really
Aussie punter.
which is really fun. Like I think they watched the 2019 College Game Day Wisconsin Minnesota game like together, if I remember correctly, in Australia before they both came. So,
But we
that's always
digress.
fun.
But yeah, Mark Crawford making honorable All Big Ten.
Listen, after all of the shit that I've given Mark Crawford over the time that he's been our punter, it feels like he deserves a shout out here. Come on.
He is a perfectly fine positional punter.
Yes, that is a good way of putting it.
He is
And
not.
it was enough that he
a
got an
weapon.
honorable mention.
And I think three other punters made teams before him, right? First team, second team, third team.
Do they do a third team in the
Or-
Big Ten?
No, they do just two. So
Yeah,
first team, second team, then him, right? So
Yeah, so they're saying this is the third best punter in the Big Ten. And like I'm assuming Iowa's guy is
yeah,
the
I
guy.
don't even want to look. So
And then I assume that they just were like, oh, let's just take Michigan or Ohio State's guy. Or maybe Rutgers guy got it, I guess.
True. Rutgers did have a good season.
Rutgers historically known for punting the football.
Minnesota East.
Honestly, yeah. But yeah, let's get back to it and touch on the game. So as the score implies, 28-14, no field goals were kicked for this game. Um,
Hurtful considering my prediction.
Very correct.
I was really looking for some field goals.
But I know Soup and I were. I know Soup was mainly complaining about this. Like he was letting it out post game on Saturday. This team did not show up to win, and I still agree with that sentiment. A few days later, and I think Wyatt, I think you might agree as well. Besides that first drive, it was classic PJ ball of trying to run inside zone and keep running it when it doesn't work.
It's just crazy that you keep playing to not lose, but yet you keep losing.
Yeah, I mean, like, who would have thought that that was how things worked? If you don't change the way you play the game, the results don't change either.
Because I think Ethan threw I think it was like at least 20 throws
Yeah, that
this
second
game.
pick is bad towards the end of the game, but it's garbage time anyway. But I can't throw that. I don't know. It just to me it felt like once Wisconsin got the lead, it was like, well, what do we do now? You know what I mean? It was like I just never really felt like we were gonna come back from behind because it didn't really feel like we wanted to. You know, like it felt like this weird kind of stasis that we were in, where it's like it was kind of a perfect microcosm of the season, honestly, because it was like, all right, like we're finally, making a play here. Ethan throws the ball up. There's another drop. You know what I mean? Like Daniel Jackson has been unreal all year, and he's fantastic. He drops a tunnel screen that they throw into cover zero, and all he has to do is catch the ball, and he probably jogs into the end zone. And it's just like every time something like that would happen. Like every time there was like, oh, this mistake over here blew this play up. This mistake over here blew this play up. And it was never the same thing, you know?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's just not clean. The details still aren't there in week 12, right? Like it's the end of the season and you're still not detailed in your approach on offense. You're still you're still airmailing balls to guys who are wide open. And then when you're not doing that, they're not catching the ball or your protection is breaking down. And I think it all kind of stemmed from the inability to win the game up front. I really felt like they did not do a good job up front this week. Um, it felt to me like they just weren't really setting the tone physically on either side of the ball. And I really think that that's very important in this matchup all the time. And it's kind of important for the way we want to play football. So where you physically assert yourself and establish a run game, and you kind of build your offense off of that. Well, Wisconsin did a really good job of making sure that we couldn't really establish anything physically.
Yeah, I think that's a accurate assessment of how things went. Um,
Yeah, and I think it's just frustrating to watch them come out and get pushed around in a game that like really means something. You know what I mean? Like in a
it,
game
it
that
it
really was
means
important.
something, and it's a game that, like, I said this in my notes for the last podcast. It's a game that PJ really needed to have.
Yeah, yeah,
And I've had my negativity about PJ this season, but like, if he wins that game, I think we have a different conversation about how hot his seat is. I don't think
sure.
that, and I'm not saying PJ's getting canned. He's not. I don't. I don't think there's any way they do that in this particular set of circumstances. But I do think that his seat is a little bit toastier now than it would have been if you come out of that season with wins against Iowa and Wisconsin.
I agree. I think we can get into that more once we talk
Yeah.
about some of the news that's coming too, because I think there's ties there. But
Oh no, for sure. I agree with you there.
when it comes to this game, if you listen to his comments after the game, I feel like PJ, once the season is over, is like a completely different guy behind the microphone, which I've always found very interesting. In that, like, he's very coy and he doesn't really try and say too much during the season. But like the second the season's done, whatever question you ask him, he's like, yeah. Like I think Justin Guard after the game asked him, like, what were some of the struggles on offense? Like, what do you think was going on with Ethan today? Because we saw kind of, the mechanics break down, the accuracy issues, stuff like that. A couple bad interceptions. And he was like, yeah, just it's not good enough. Like he basically just said that. He was like, it's not good enough. It's not consistent, and needs to be better. And I was like, oh boy, interesting. Like, go listen to his comments after the game from this week. It's I think very revealing to what he thinks about the season because he called it a recalibration year.
That's a really odd way of putting it.
But hey,
Yeah.
at least we got some honesty out of it though, because like as we've talked, like as you mentioned, Soup all season he plays coy to it or diverts it away, right?
Well,
And
yeah,
then
because I mean, he has to be consistent in his messaging. I think throughout the year and to the locker room, and I think once the season's over, again, we'll get into this later. I think there's a kind of a new dynamic between coaches and players at the end of the year now in college that I think is going to look a lot more like pro football.
oh, definitely, especially with the NIL and everything and the
A-
portal.
and likely in great amounts because of NIL in the portal.
Yeah, a little column A, column B, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think it was telling. I appreciated the candor from him in a year where we were all kind of asking for more of it, and I think he much more accurately identified the issues at the end of the game yesterday than he had all year, and I don't think that that's an accident. Like I said, you don't get to be a Power Five football coach by being an idiot. So I think a lot of the time we have to just kind of like wait for these full seasons to play out before we really get any good information from these coaches. And I think it's hard to be okay with that, but here we go. Defensively, though, I mean, I think we've kind of beat the points to death on offense this year. It's
Yeah.
same old, same old. It feels like we're not talking too much about it, but I mean, what's to say, right? Like, it's been the same stuff: inconsistency, execution mistakes, just not one thing popping up at the same time that you can actually fix and just.
Yeah, combination of a lot of things, injuries. Like, I know Griffin mentioned in his notes here, but like injuries, like I think
Yeah,
even though we had Cody Lindenberg back, um,
I think this wide receiver room really missed Lemecki Brockington.
oh that too.
I think that's like a huge takeaway for me, just kind of on the season, on the offensive side of the ball. I think they had a much larger role planned for Lemecki Brockington than we know. Because he was that sure-handed guy for them. Like him and Daniel Jackson were like a great 1-2 complement to each other, where Daniel can kind of be your, they kind of can do the same things, which is nice. They both are good route runners. They both can make plays down the field. Lemecki maybe is a little faster than Daniel Jackson is with the ball in his hands. And I think they were kind of hoping to use him as an underneath complement to Daniel. And it does not look like anyone slid into that role.
No, not at all.
He's also a very sure-handed player. Does not drop a lot of footballs.
That's also very true.
Feels relevant.
But yeah,
Very.
back to the defensive side of the ball, like the one I know we mentioned like a lot of things on the defensive side, like compounded into them, like bursting, like the bubble pops, right? Um, but I
Yeah,
think
that's a really,
I think we have to
that's a
touch it,
really
like
good way.
injuries to linebackers. You have young guys coming in there. Cody had very limited play, right, throughout the season,
Yeah.
and I think probably just like he's not up to game speed, maybe. But then again, missed tackles, missed assignments, or you're in the right spot, but then you missed a tackle, right?
Well, the
Um,
defense's main issue all year has been they've been really good for like 85% of games. And then the like times that they're not good, it's just like it's cataclysmic. You know what I mean? It's like it's not to the point where you're shooting yourself in the foot with a pistol, you're shooting yourself in the foot with an RPG. You know what I mean? Like every single time they would make a mistake, it would like actively hurt them and be like an explosive play that leads to a touchdown. Speaking of which, every single touchdown drive from Wisconsin had a play over 20 yards.
explosive plays.
Yep.
Man,
So,
do I hate that statistic.
yep. It's not good. And like I said, it's like, every single time that they would make a mistake, it would just hurt them. They could never really overcome those things.
And there's another one. I'm not sure we could count that in that soup, but Tanner Mordecai ran all over this defense too.
Yeah, they lost contain, and I think again
Mm-hmm.
that's just it's another point for what we said earlier of you got beat up front, and I think their offensive line did a really good job of making sure we could not, set those wide edges and keep contain on him and they allowed him escape routes out of the pocket. And once he did break the pocket, the linebackers were not making plays on him. And that is what's going to happen when you do that, right? So, a lot of times defense is 10 on 11 in the quote unquote old days. But I think now, kind of we're getting to this point where like every quarterback is an athlete too. You no longer have the Peyton Manning types, your Phillip Rivers types, your Tanner Morgan types, your, Aiden O'Connell types, right?
Right.
A lot of these quarterbacks can do both, and you need guys to clean those up when they break the pocket, and they weren't doing that, and then they weren't keeping contained, they weren't keeping them in the pocket, and it's just not a recipe for success. It's something we called out that you guys called out on the pre-show. I think every single one of it. I sent notes. I mentioned it. Wyatt mentions it in his notes, and you guys talked about it on the episode. Like we all, and I'm sure Joe Rossi spent all week talking about it. And just don't execute.
And I'm curious too, going into it. Like I don't think there's one. Like I know there's not one simple answer, but I wonder if now that the regular season's over, um, talks of bowl bids because we have a academically good program, despite being 5-7, that we're going bowling. Does this? Like, I know we harp a lot on PJ, but does this give Rossi a chance to maybe reboot with what we have for the defense,
Uh,
or are
I
we
think their
sticking to what we've been good
scheme.
at?
I think their scheme also got a touch more aggressive this year, which I think is a positive change, but I think it was an adjustment for everybody, right? Like I think they really let Tyler Nubin play pretty free, and that was good. But he also gives up a touchdown in this game where he's trailing the guy who catches the ball, and he's not within a yard of him. Like stuff like that and I think it's because he is trying so hard to make a play sometimes that he's putting himself out of position. And I'm not gonna like that's not saying anything about Tyler Nubin. Like he's an amazing player. I'm excited to watch him play on Sundays, but I think it's just a philosophy change for them that hurt them a lot more than they expected it to initially. And I think they were trying to leverage their talent on defense. Like I think when you saw Cody Lindenberg out there, he had a lot of responsibility. I think when Maverick was healthy and looking good, you slowly saw him take on more responsibility and make more plays. And guys like Ja Joyner, I think they were expecting to get to the quarterback a little more this year, and they did that at times, but it just again consistency. And I'm not sure that anything needs to kind of be reset. I just think that you need to get these young guys more looks, and I think that's another good reason why this bowl is going to be great for them. They have a very, very young core right now, and it is going to be every rep and every practice and every game situation is going to be very important. And I think that they have shown in the past they are willing to take advantage of those things in their bowl games.
For sure, for sure. Especially when you're losing a guy as big as Tyler Newbin.
Yeah, I mean he's your all-time leader in picks. Like
He's your all-time leader in picks. He's like the heart and soul of the
he was the
team
best safety in
right
college
now.
football this year. I don't care.
Yeah.
Probably one of the better defensive backs in college football. Just if you look at all his advanced stats, all of that stuff, like he's top 5 at least. And if he has a really good combine, I think he can go first round. Um, but we'll see. He should be the first safety drafted, though.
Should. We'll see.
All hopes to Tyler. But to go from there, let's touch on the last unit, special teams.
Dragon Kesich, kicker of the year. Fire up the lifetime extension for Rob Wanger.
I mean, Mark Crawford genuinely improving.
It's nice.
It's nice. It'd be nice to see that happen with our returners.
I mean, also like not to poo-poo Mark Crawford getting better, but like I would hope a 30-plus-year-old man would get a little stronger kicking the ball.
Oh, man, he's so old. But
yeah, I don't know. Like I'm happy for Mark Crawford in his honorable mention, but I just I don't know. I think he gets those because he doesn't kick a lot of touchbacks, and I think there's
I would
a
have
reason he
liked
doesn't have
to
a lot of
see
touchbacks.
less of him.
It's like, you guys ever play Madden and then you make your kicker like with kick leg so that he literally cannot kick the ball like more than 50 yards? Like physically
Yeah,
can't.
Yeah.
it's kind of like that.
And then you're just like, okay, because this is Madden. If I get over the 50, I'm just going to go for it every time because this is a video game. And so you're just like, well, my punter will only be able to pin you deep from like this 10-yard stretch, and that is it. And other than that, it's like full boomstick. Otherwise, it's like no finesse. And then it's just like hoping that it rolls or something. And I think that's kind of who Mark Crawford is. He's the kicker who you've intentionally turned the power down on because you're like, if I do ask you to kick, I'm just asking for the boot.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I see what you're saying.
I don't know. Like a team like Minnesota, your special teams unit is a unit on your team that should be a plus. It should be something that you try and use to beat higher class opponents.
It has to be.
Yeah.
You should be valuing your special teams unit the
Stairs
way
at
that
Iowa.
Iowa has.
Stairs at Iowa.
Yeah, like Iowa is, winning football games on special teams. And meanwhile, the Minnesota is like the one year that the Chargers missed the playoffs despite having the number one offense and number one defense because their special teams was that bad. That's kind of how bad Minnesota special teams can be.
Outside of
They're
Dragon.
so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like again, nothing on the kickers here. It's a return game thing.
They're outside. They're so bad that their net average, their not their net average, their net on the season is negative
Oof.
Oofda.
on kick and punt, or kick return at least. Negative on the net average.
Gross.
It's just I don't
There's
like.
nothing about that that's not.
I'm at the point where if you don't fire Rob Wanker, like you're just not serious about winning. Like I don't. What more do you have to see to know that? Like, okay, yeah, maybe he's like an insane kickers coach, and like you go from Dragon to Emmett Carpenter, right? Like you've just this like triple, and then Santoso before was like fine towards the end for him,
Yeah.
and it's just maybe he's like a really good kicking coach, but like this is not it on special teams, and it can't. This cannot be good enough, right?
We need somebody who can help these returners, who can like teach them to take calculated risks, but like take chances.
And I think this is another thing that we can get in with, big picture year stuff. Is that another like PJ thing? Is that maybe Rob Wenger does want to do some returns and stuff, but PJ's just like no, you know, like we've said this about the offense. 4 offensive coordinators, same result. PJ's just got his hands in it too much.
Yeah.
Maybe special teams is the same. Maybe PJ's just like
Well,
so scared of muffing a punt. But
and
like
don't we have like some evidence that suggests that Rob Wenger and PJ were sort of fighting about it at one point?
On
yeah, I mean, we've
broadcast.
seen them yell at each other on the sidelines. It's fine. I mean, but
Yeah.
I, I don't know. I tend to not read into those like sideline interactions too much, just because football games get really intense,
No, for
and
sure. I'm just
guys
wondering
at
if
this
we
level
don't
compete.
have like more of a dispute on how to handle the special teams than we think we do.
I have no idea. I think it's impossible to tell. We'll never know. So I don't know. I think if it was that bad, he would have left by now. But also, then where is he going, right? But this is a lot of Rob Wenger talk. Um,
Maybe too much.
I personally just want him off the off the. I just get him out. That's
I'd
all I
like
have
to
to say.
not be talking about Rob Wenger next season for
Thank
one
you.
reason or another.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Laurent's is, we know Laurent's, while he hasn't chimed in as much, he's always been on the fire Rob Ranger train since the beginning, so we'll note that. But I think there's not much I have to add. Like, now that the season, like the regular season's over, the loss of Wisconsin, like I don't have much more to add because this has been like same shit, different day
I know
with
that's
this
like
team.
this Wisconsin game was like perfect capsulation of the season, and
I really like same shit, different day as a descriptor of this season because just like everything feels like that. And,
what a ride too.
I
you
mean, if you
know,
think about it, outside of the preseason pod and the pod to recap post Nebraska and maybe Eastern Michigan, right? Like the first 2 games in the preseason podcast, we were talking very, very different things. And then
yeah.
once we lost in North Carolina, we're like, okay, things are vanilla with this team. And it's been the same story each week. And I love you for all of our fans, our listeners and viewers. A lot of them are our close friends and families members. But like, yeah, this is what we've been doing each week because of what the Gophers have been doing. Like, usually we're not like this each year.
I mean,
I feel like,
I feel like we should be giving Jason like a copay before every podcast.
yeah, I don't know about that, but
Oh no, no need. We make some sort of monetary
Oh,
benefit from
you take my insurance?
no
Oh,
from YouTube, and then that goes back
yeah,
to
if Jason takes my insurance, that's great. But
no. We do make some money to help pay for the subscription stuff for all of our apps, so we're good. Um, I might
we
scratch.
make very marginal income.
I might scratch that from the audio. Who knows? We'll see.
break even, break even, break even. Hey, at least this podcast is 500. Let's go.
Yes, this is a non-profit podcast.
It's an LLC technically.
But outside of that, yeah, I don't have much more to add from this game. I really want to get to this post regular season talk. 'Cause damn, it's been crazy
There's some
today.
big moves coming. So like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I want to just shout out something Griffin said before we completely move on. A tale of two halves. First half, some production. Second half, we become incapable of moving the ball and just make so many errors. And I think that's a really good point. Just on because on both sides of the ball, that was what was going on. It felt like the first half when you're in more kind of the game plan stuff, you feel real comfortable and good with your execution. You kind of see what it could look like. And then the second half comes and you're my guess, this is just like conjecture, just thinking about it big picture. Coaches go in, you make your adjustments. Okay, we're going to do some of this, we're going to do some of that. We might not have been working on it all week, but be ready for it. And they're just not. And I think it's hard to know, which side of the fence that one falls on. But I think, Griffin's point of, this has been the whole season for them. First half looks great. Second half, nothing.
Tale of two halves, same shit, different day. Battle for mediocrity. Words from Griffin, or some of that was from Griffin, but
you
I think
said you said vanilla, Jason, and like I'm thinking on it, and I'm like, I don't know if I like vanilla as a description,
I
because
love
like
vanilla. Like, I think it's
vanilla is like
good.
a fine flavor. It's
Well,
a it's an
vanilla's great.
enjoyable flavor of like ice cream, yogurt, whatever.
yeah.
And like,
Technically, vanilla is a very complex flavor.
shut up. It's like a plain yogurt team.
That's not vanilla. That's plain yogurt. That's plain. That's
No,
not
that's what
vanilla.
I'm saying. Is this is not vanilla. It's
Ah,
plain. This is a plain flavor team, and that's what we've got this season. And
yeah,
man,
unstirred with the weird water on the top that just you can't get rid of.
yeah, I'd like to see some vanilla next season because vanilla is a complex flavor.
Thank you. I always say because I love vanillas. Whenever people say that to me, I'm always like, "Oh, it's actually really complex." It's so annoying, and people just stare at
I
me. And
also love vanilla, and there's so many vanillas. Think about how many vanillas you can find in the ice cream aisle, and then
I
get back
mean,
to me about how vanilla is boring.
I think the Gophers would have taken vanilla at quarterback this year. To segue,
Yeah.
More of a
So
rocky road this season, I suppose.
yeah, to touch on it. Yeah. So transfer portal news: Ethan Manis has entered the portal as of today, Tuesday the 28th. After starting 12 games this year and a few games last year, he is in the portal. However, that doesn't guarantee he will transfer. I do want to preface that, but however,
yep.
from what we've seen rumblings of the program, once you're in the portal, you're kind of out of the program by PJ standards or PJ's rules or whatever.
Which I think is fine.
Yeah. And then freshman quarterback Drew Vioto,
I think it's Viato.
Viato, has also entered into the transfer portal, leaving redshirt senior Cole Kramer, and then I forgot the poor freshman walk-on's name on the roster.
It's preferred walk on.
Preferred walk-on, freshman quarterback that's left in the QB room for the Gophers.
That he's got his hands full because right now he's the guy on the roster next season.
That's true.
Like that's until someone comes from the transfer
I mean,
portal or someone
he's
gets
the backup
recruited.
QB for the bowl game.
He
Literally.
he might be the starting QB for the bowl game.
No.
Just are you? Would you rather start Cole Kramer?
That's not what I said at all.
Soup is the starting quarterback for the bowl game. Actually,
I mean, I still have
Soup
eligibility.
Soup has eligibility.
I'm younger than Mark Crawford.
It's a little bit more fun than him punting. I'd much rather have Soup throwing the football. I think that'd be a great.
I
time.
bet you I can arm punt just as far as Mark Crawford could actually punt.
Oh, I was gonna say I was
I
gonna
could
enjoy.
probably our punt almost as far as Mark Crawford could punt.
Oh, I was gonna say I was gonna enjoy Cole Kramer that is running Wildcat all game for the bowl game.
I don't. I do think I mean, I think they go with Cole. I think it'll be his like kind of goodbye to the program after being here for as long as he was and being a
Sticking
local
around
kid
through
and
thick and
sticking it
thin.
out, being a great teammate. Like I think he's going to get rewarded for that by playing this game. And I don't see a problem with that at all. Um, I just don't. I think he's at least earned this bowl game in a pretty meaningless bowl game. You know, um, I think we see a lot of testing the younger skill guys, and like I think Lemecki Brockington plays. He warmed up. He was questionable last game.
Very true.
Yeah, I'd love to see Lemecki play.
Yeah, I think I think the Gophers do a very good job of using these bowl games for the right things. Like when they played Auburn, balls to the wall. You know, we're going for it. We're beating an SEC team on national TV. Like we're the real deal. Rashad Bateman, uh, Tyler Johnson, Mo Ibrahim, fourth down pop pass, Bryce Witham.
Hmm.
I
Hero
mean,
of the Outback Bowl.
yeah, I mean that was awesome. And then I think like when they play in the guaranteed rate bowl, right, the one that was in Arizona, like they really just tossed a bunch of young guys out there last year. The Coleman Bryson game, right?
Yep.
Like I think they do a very good job of identifying what these bowl games should be used for. So I look forward to seeing a lot of young guys playing football.
But then I will also mention too, there's a lot. It gives the staff, especially in this case, Greg Harbaugh and Joe Rossi, just to game plan an amazing game too. Because like obviously,
You have time.
like because they have more time, you're not trying to cram it in under a week, right? So, um,
All the extra practices are huge.
for sure, like again, like you mentioned, Soup, young guys to develop, probably go see them play a lot. Um, which is from what the predictions saying and also words from Griffin, can't wait to spend Christmas in Detroit. Um, for those who
I would
aren't
be
aware,
genuinely stunned if we played anywhere but Detroit.
true.
It's just Detroit's so funny to me because it's like not the city, just the bowl game. I think it's funny because it's like such a bad bowl game. Like I know when we were in band, it's like everybody was like, please no, like anything but Detroit. Like, can I not be in band if we go to Detroit? Because I don't want to go. And it's so funny because that's an NFL stadium. It's
Mm-hmm.
a very nice NFL stadium, and like,
Ford Field is nice.
yeah, it is so sweet. And I think everybody gets like so locked into like the it's gonna suck being in Detroit, and then you have like me, you know, I'm just like we get to play on an NFL field. That's cool.
And we're
It is
warm
cool.
indoors, not freezing our asses off at Yankee Stadium for the
And
Pinstripe Bowl.
it's like minimal commitment from us.
Yeah, it's a very low commitment bowl game for the
Yeah,
band.
yeah. Little inside baseball for listeners.
Probably a lower commitment bowl game for the team as well, actually. But you know,
Uh,
I
I
don't
don't
know if
know.
I have the insider baseball on that one as well.
Maybe on like events, but like you treat it just like any other game, right?
Yeah.
And
1-0 in the insert group of 5 team here
probably a math
season.
team.
Sure.
But yeah, to touch further, the Gophers do have two offers out right now, and I think we want to chat on. I'll start on the first one because I don't have much to say, or we don't have much to say. But Thor Griffith, defensive tackle from Harvard, was offered. It was announced on Twitter, and then lastly, Max Brosmer, quarterback for New Hampshire, who I think you mentioned it, Wyatt. He is the FCS alt like passing
He is
leader.
the FCS's passing leader for this past season, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're always going to kind of have to play in that realm.
Yeah, they could be looking at like guys who performed well in group of five, but if I'm in the group of five, I'm not entirely sure how, and like I'm doing well in the group of five, I'm not entirely sure how enticed I am to come to a Minnesota team that's struggling to find an identity for their passing offense. So, you know,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I mean, Cole has been preparing as the backup all year, so I don't think. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna look too different.
yeah.
But I think from the perspective of like transfer quarterback, one Thor Griffith is the second overall defensive line transfer according to the 24/7 Sports transfer rankings.
Yeah, no, I
Sixth
don't
overall
hate that.
transfer. That's pretty cool. So the Bosmer kid, like I don't know. I think um, Wyatt, to your point, I, I think that's kind of a tell of what they think about Ethan too. Um, they're going after a guy who has a lot of passing yards and
A
a
lot of
lot of
passing attempts.
touchdowns, a lot of attempts, and not a lot of interceptions. So
You watched some of his tape. Is he mobile?
he's mobile enough.
Do you play a little bit like Tanner?
He's more athletic than Tanner, and he's
Well,
bigger.
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love what Tanner did for this program. I understand that Tanner is not a very athletic quarterback.
No, 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 no,
Is
no,
this guy also
no.
more athletic than Mitch Leitner?
I mean, there's not really a lot of stuff out on the guy right now either, just because uh, there's not a lot of FCS tape floating around out there. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like his mechanics look great. Like I think he's kind of like I don't think it's who they thought Ethan could be, but I think it's kind of what they wanted him to be this year. He looks confident in the offense. He looks comfortable. He makes his reads. His mechanics are good, and he is consistently accurate. And he doesn't really put the ball in harm's way. And I think we saw almost all of those things on the opposite side for Ethan.
Yep.
I think it'll be very telling where he ends up um, if he does leave.
I was gonna
I
say there's a very real possibility here that Ethan just doesn't get the offer he wants
yeah, and
and
that's
decides
the
to come
risk
back and compete.
you take. That's the risk you take. I mean, like Jason said earlier, though, I think historically, once you transfer, you're kind of out. So once you put your name in, you're kind of out with when it comes to PJ's program. So
Yep.
and he's not the only one that does that. Like, let's not like I don't want people to be like, well, he's weird for that. But it's like no, a lot of teams do that. They have other things to worry about. They don't need to also coach you while you're actively trying to go somewhere else. Like, come on, what are we doing? So, um, ooh, the CFB playoff rankings just dropped.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I think so. Brett McMurphy.
All right, what's the news? What's the news on that?
Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State.
Go Washington though. Like
Florida State
Two Big Ten
is
teams.
in the top four.
Two Big Ten teams. Florida State is indeed in the top four.
That's
Who would you have had over them?
well, the way that they have played this season, I think it's fitting. I don't think they're going to end up there in the final rankings. And it's entirely because of Jordan Travis,
Yeah, I mean, I think
which
I think this is kind of like a here's your chance thing.
yeah,
You know?
it's soul crushing what happened to Jordan Travis. Heart goes out to the kid.
Yeah.
mhm.
I think they're
But
just kind of saying this is your chance. Like, prove to us that you can be here,
Mhm.
and then
yep.
if they don't, they'll fall out. But
Well, if they don't, or if Alabama wins this coming weekend, um,
Alabama jumping from 8 to 4 would, I think, be kind of wild.
It would be
but if they beat Georgia,
Like, I mean, if they beat Georgia, maybe. I guess, but I don't see that happening.
I don't.
Because what Michigan is 2, right? And they're playing
Because then
Iowa.
Georgia, you just bring Georgia down. Bama jumps from like 8 to 5, I would
Yeah,
say, in this theoretical, and
And
then
Georgia drops to 2.
yeah, Michigan
yeah.
wins because they're cheaters, or if Washington wins,
Because Washington plays Oregon for their championship game this weekend, right?
yeah. And I think this is just setting up like if Washington does beat Oregon, they are in. If Oregon beats Washington, they might be in.
They're probably
And
4, but they're in.
yeah, and then Florida State, who do they play this weekend?
It's got to be Clemson, right?
I guess, or is it
Is Clemson even
UNC?
on the list? Are they top 12 even?
I don't see them.
Maybe it's not Clemson.
They're
Who the
23.
who the hell else is there?
I don't know. I don't want to think about this lame division anyway.
I'll look it up because it's gonna drive me nuts.
Knowing you, Wyatt, it will. So let us know when you find it. But it's
Oh,
interesting.
it's Louisville.
It's Louisville.
Jeff
Is
Brom, Purdue legend who couldn't beat PJ.
is Louisville in the top 10?
They're 10 or they're 15.
They're
They were 10 a
15.
week ago.
Hmm.
Oh, they're 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, then so if Florida State loses, they're out, which
Yeah.
opens up a hole for,
But if they
a sneaky
win,
Alabama team, or I guess if Michigan absolutely obliterates Iowa, Ohio State, something like that.
Hey, we want chaos. So Jeff Brom, do your thing.
Wait, what about Texas?
is back question mark?
Is it Texas is a one-loss team, are they not?
I believe they are.
They are.
Oh my God, they're gonna get snuck in, aren't they?
That would be really funny.
That would be funny.
Damn.
Oh, you know what, Wyatt? That's totally what they're setting up for.
They're setting up to sneak
'Cause
Texas into the playoffs.
Because look, here it is, right? Florida State upset by Jeff Brom. Boom. We've seen this one before, right? Big Ten
Louisville
people.
doesn't Louisville doesn't have the gas to climb that high.
Jeff Brom and playoff teams though, like you never know.
Yeah, but Louisville's not going to climb into the top 4. Is what
No,
I'm
but
saying.
yeah, they don't climb that high, and
But they
then
could Florida State without Jordan Travis.
yes,
And then
Michigan beats
everything else goes
Iowa.
according to plan.
No, Georgia loses to Alabama because they can't
Oh,
jump. They can't jump Texas. They can't jump Texas. Michigan moves up to 1. Washington beats Oregon, so they stay at 5. Washington moves up to 2.
Georgia hits at 3.
Georgia hits at 3, and then you put you jump Texas. You just switch Texas and Florida State, and maybe move Bam up to 7 and put Florida State to 8.
I
You
love
probably
this.
put you probably put Bama 7, Florida State 8.
Sure, who cares?
It doesn't matter. The point is they're going to try to sneak Texas in under our noses.
If that happens, my God.
Chaos.
If we've predicted Texas already. Texas
Okay.
is officially back.
So we're rooting for Alabama and Louisville this weekend.
I guess.
I mean, I don't want Texas to be back. Let's be very clear about this.
Also true.
Although very
I mean, they'll
happy
get
that
smoked.
Quinn
They'll get
Ewers has been the
smoked
guy
by
this season.
Georgia. They'll get smoked by Georgia, and it'll all be really funny.
Also true.
Or no,
Well,
in that
I was
scenario,
gonna
wait,
say
hold on, back
they'll
it up.
play
They get smoked
Michigan.
by Michigan.
Yeah.
Or
Michigan.
they'll beat Michigan because Michigan's just terrible luck in the postseason. And then they'll get smoked by
I
Georgia.
guarantee you, Michigan's already been to the Texas game for sure. Connor Stallions has been there for sure. This guy
Man.
was on the sideline at a Central Michigan game. You don't think he's got Texas tape?
Yeah, I'm sure he's got Texas tape. Speaking of Texas and
So then
going
in that
back
scenario,
to,
they play Michigan plays them.
yeah,
Right.
yep. But
Cool.
speaking of Texas and going back to our transfer portal discussion, Did you guys see that Quinn Ewers is coming back?
Wait,
That's
what?
hilarious.
Quinn Ewers is going back to Texas. He's playing another year, which means
Interesting.
that
How much are they paying him to do that, do you think?
Arch Manning's gonna be on the market.
Do
Don't
you
think so.
I don't think PJ's gonna offer Arch Manning. He doesn't
There's
have the
No,
kids.
I
It
don't think.
doesn't matter.
I'm not even talking about that.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying There's no way Arch Manning stays at Texas if Quinn Ewers is going to come back another season,
Because
right?
Arch doesn't want to sit on the Arch is not gonna want to sit on the bench for another year.
Like I'm not talking PJ's going to pitch Arch. Maybe he
No,
does, but
we don't have the NIL money for it. It's not even
yeah,
worth
we
it.
just don't, we do not have what it takes to go get Arch Manning. Arch Manning is going to end up at like USC or something like that.
Or hey, Washington, because Michael Penix is in his last year.
No, I don't think he goes to Washington over USC.
If Caleb Williams stay another year though,
No.
Do we really think
he
Caleb
could.
Williams stays?
He could, but I don't. Why? He is going to be picked first or second overall.
very true, and get all that bank from.
He doesn't have
NFL
to play in
draft.
the bowl game. He doesn't have to go to a combine. He can just not do anything.
Yeah, he can literally just walk into the number 2 pick.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's just. I mean, I don't even really think about those. Like
Other programs, that's not ours.
No, I don't think about like those options, right? Because they're just not realistic. Like there's just
Oh
like
no,
no
I'm
way
not
something
talking.
that.
I would never suggest that Arch Manning. Would
Yeah,
do
I just mean like I have no radar on it, right? Like
that. Yeah,
I have nothing
it
on it.
just
I have
I
no thoughts because it's like I don't know.
I just saw that Quinn Ewers was coming back, and I like lost my mind a little bit
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah.
because I was like, what did you go get Arch Manning for if it was just going to be the Quinn
I
Ewers
can't wait
show?
to see what the NIL money is for it because I'm sure it'll come out.
Yeah, I do want to see the numbers because like he's got like potential to be a draft pick, correct?
Oh no, he would definitely get drafted if he went to the draft.
Mhm.
Like he'd be in the discussion for first few rounds.
It's just I
Oh,
wonder.
first two at the very least.
Just
I mean,
because
I've
he's a
seen him first
quarterback
round
who's
mocked.
shown promise.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
And I mean, like, we're JJ McCarthy's a first round mock, is he not?
no, I don't think so.
I think he's
There's a lot of good
very
players in the
late.
NFL draft at other positions this year.
Yeah.
The quarterbacks is like Caleb Drake May, and then like from
You're
the
gonna have a
NFL
discussion
perspective,
about guys like Bo Nix.
Jaden Daniels. Like those will be the guys. Those will be the guys that people might like trade up into the back end of the first round for.
Yeah.
But
Maybe Michael Penix.
there's like a lot of good receivers this year. There's a lot of good
Maybe
defensive
JJ's
line.
a round
There's some
2 guy.
defensive line talent this year. There's 2 offensive tackles in the top 10. Right.
So we're seeing a
If the-
very loaded
yeah.
2024 draft class coming up then.
Maybe JJ's like if everything stays the same that it is right now, JJ McCarthy's like a 34th overall pick guy. Because
Sure.
right now the number 2 pick belongs to New England. And that feels like a very Bill
That
Belichick
feels
pick.
very Bill. If he's not gone,
I don't know if Robert Kraft will fire him.
I mean, I don't know. Just
We
don't
know.
like I have a my conspiracy theory is that Bill Belichick has deep dark secrets on Robert Kraft and therefore he'll never be fired. But
Well, who knows?
know.
But we were actually out of time, gentlemen. So we'll have to wrap it up
Shame.
for tonight. But for those watching and listening to OPA Podcast episode 76, thank you so much. We will return. Right now, no no gauge yet. Like we're not going to be keeping our weekly schedule. It's just going to be for sure one more episode to preview the bowl game coming up, and then another to recap the bowl game, and then get further into what's going on with either more transfer portal stuff post game or going into the new season and stuff like that. So for sure, guarantee 2 more episodes. So it's episode 77 and 78. And then we will go on a long hiatus through the rest of the winter and spring, and return for sure for.
I'm sure we'll get the itch at some point.
Yeah, well, like it's like I guess a hiatus. We're not gonna be like gone forever, but guarantee we will be back by the start of next season. If not, may have a random episode here and there to bring some content to you. But to go from there, I'm one of your hosts, Jason O, along with Soup
We made it
and
barely.
and Wyatt.
Oh.
And we'll see you guys next time. Oh.